continue to hold that space of deep peace. And just know that it begins with you. And as I said in the words of that beautiful song, let there be peace on earth, a peace that was meant to be. And it is already here. And I'm going to start with a quote from Ernest Holmes, who says that we must practice the presence of peace consciously, definitely, and deliberately. If we can do it individually and in the family and to a certain degree in our offices and businesses, which we can, why can't we do it for the whole world? We can, he says. And yes, we can. But as he alludes to, we must first find that peace for ourselves, because that is where it all starts. It starts with you. It starts with me. And yes, we can do it for the world. Now, knowing that I relate these talks to personal happenings in my life, I'm kind of sure you're wondering what stories I have to tell about peace, but it seems lately, well, always, peace is very personal to me. I started to talk about peace because although I don't listen to the news very often because I find it too upsetting, chaotic, and confusing, it's impossible not to hear things. Even though I don't listen on purpose, I can't avoid the occasional breakthroughs, the groups on Google as I read my emails, and the things on Facebook that show up as I touch bases with my family. Now, I'm not trying to avoid the world as it exists. I just choose not to focus on the negative events that seem to be daily in the news, not only worldwide, but locally. In spite of my efforts, the personal effect on me is that my mind is full of chaos and confusion. It often results in my inability to focus on what I'm doing, and sometimes even results in a feeling of separation from God. When I allow that to happen, the result is never positive. Now, I know deep in my soul that God and I are one, and that he's right here, right where I am. I know that. I also know that the only separation is in my mind, and that all I have to do is enter the stillness and all is well. It's entering that stillness that sometimes is difficult. And that kind of leads me to my story, which is a rather long story. So if you get bored in the middle, I kind of understand it. But as a prelude, I will say most of you know that I still suffer from PTSD as a result of the incident I had 2 years ago. When I'm driving, the sight of an ambulance and or the sound of sirens can cause me to tense up, and the sight of the actual crash can cause a panic attack. Last Saturday, I took my granddaughter to Kennywood. The traffic was terrible. There was an accident, and we were rerouted to places I had never been before. Now, fortunately, if I'm driving somewhere and I don't know where I'm going, I don't get too upset about it. I have GPS and I know I'm going in the right direction. So I didn't stress out over that. I was more stressed over the accident. But it was all good because we were rerouted and I really couldn't see. All I could really see was an ambulance up ahead and some blocked traffic. So I didn't really see too much. I didn't really hear any sirens, so it wasn't really terribly awful. I did do a lot of deep breathing, which usually calms me. And my granddaughter was in the car, so I really did have to hold it together. We made it, and all was well, or at least I thought it was. Well, as I turned around and started to come home, there were 2 more accidents. On the first one, I did see the actual crash. The ambulance was there, and I could hear sirens in the distance. Thankfully, I really couldn't see too much. Not that I was looking. Traffic was very slow, but it was moving. And I was getting a little stressed, so I did a lot of deep breathing and self-talk. I have this mantra that says, it's okay. You're not alone. God is right here, right where you are. And I just repeat that to myself over and over and over again to the place where God is right where I am. So good, I made it through. Now, I did hear this very quiet voice telling me that I should pull over, but I decided to ignore it. Some of you know from my talks that I do sometimes ignore God when he talks the first time, but he always tells it to me again. Well, the next thing you know, see, I didn't listen the first time. There was a total backup on the road, and I mean a total backup. Traffic was pretty much stopped. I couldn't see anything, but I knew something was happening that I didn't want to see. So now I started listening to that little voice that's in my head. And you do have to know that God and I talk all the time. And you know, like I said, if I don't listen, he just repeats himself. So he says to me, you know, as I'm in this mess, he goes, you know, I told you to pull over. So pull over. Stop, get something to drink, and just chill for a bit. It will all be fine. So this time I listened and I pulled into the gas station that was right there. I was much more upset than I realized. You know, God knew that. I spent about 5 minutes just sitting in the car, breathing and sitting in the stillness. I even cried a little bit. I finally got out. I got a drink and I got back in the car. And after about 15 minutes, I got back on the road. Now, it took me a while, you know, even though I went in and got a drink. It took me a little while to really pull myself back together. And it took me a while of sitting actually in that silence. Even after I got a drink, I came back to the car. And I really just sat there, breathing in and feeling God's presence, feeling the calmness, and restoring that peace that I know is always there, and feeling that connection. Because I had again let myself get separated. I know better. God's telling me to pull over, but I don't really need to, because I know better. Well, I don't know better. God knows what's good for me, and he always tells me. I just don't always listen. So we get back on the road. It looked like there were 2 lanes, so I got into the far lane because it looked like it was the least congested. Well, it turns out it was a right turn only lane. No big deal, I thought. I'll just turn around at the next road. Well, there wasn't a next road until quite a ways away, and by that time, I finally decided just to give it up to God. For whatever reason, he had led me down the path, and I decided to take it no matter where it went. It turned out I was not the only one taking the road less traveled. In fact, I think it was the road more traveled. But I just followed the traffic, and it turned out to be one of the best decisions I've ever made. Once the traffic cleared, it was a very easy drive, and it was a beautiful drive. I got to see the changing colors. I rode through little towns that I had heard of, but didn't know where they actually were. I found several places I would like to return to, and I actually enjoyed the drive. Yeah, it took me 2 hours to get home, but it was a journey of self-discovery and a journey of just discovering new things. So as I woke up this morning, it occurred to me, and again, it's probably God's little voice speaking in my ear, that I haven't really told you how to find that silence, because I know many of us have trouble finding it. And the truth is, it's deeply personal for each of us. But silence is everywhere. It's not just in meditation. or getting away from everyone and everything. Silence is everywhere if we just take a moment. Yes, that's all it takes, a moment. Because once you take that moment, you enter into that special place, that place where calm, joy, peace, and happiness live, and I'm forever accessible to you. For me, silence is in the beauty of the tree outside my window. It's in the sound of gentle rain falling on my roof. It's in the radiant smile of a baby. It's sitting and petting my dog. It's in the sunset and the sunrise and all of God wonders that surround us. It's everywhere. It's in meditation. It's in reading. You don't have to look for it, because if you take that moment, it will find you because it's already there. In my story, I found silence in a gas station parking lot. If I can find it there, you can find it anywhere. You probably won't have to go to a gas station to do it, but you could. No matter where you are or what you're doing, you can take a moment. Just take a moment and be in the moment. There is love all around you. There is calm and peace all around you. As you take a moment to breathe that in, you are entering that special place. So as we find that moment of silence, I will just continue my story and let you know that when I got home, I was still slightly off kilter, but I was more centered. And the first thing I did was I sat down and gave thanks for the safe journey and for the guidance and protection that had led me home. I also gave great thanks for my ability to open my mind and heart and to listen, really listen to that still small voice. That still small voice that I, and I'm sure many of you, don't often make enough time to listen to. That voice that led me safely out of harm's way and home, not only to my physical home, but home to myself. And as I did come home to myself, I gave thanks, I listened, and I found that peace that I think is what many of us are really looking for. The peace that exists at the very core of my being and the very core of your being. That deep, abiding peace that only exists when I am truly at one with the one, and my mind is still. As Ernest Holmes says, you and I know that no matter how confused we are, if we will get by ourselves long enough and think peace, we shall become peaceful. Peace is the divine reality of the heart of God. If it is at the heart of God, then it must be at the heart of me. It really is that simple. All we really have to do is become still and listen, because it is the truth of who we are. Yes, the world is full of chaos and confusion if we accept that it is so. But it is up to us to see the beauty, to see the cooperation, to see the sharing and the caring, and to see the spiritual path that is so brightly lit before us, if only we will let it be. It is up to us to see the world where God makes all things new again, and where joy, harmony, love, laughter, calm, and peace are all there is. It is up to each and every one of us to be the beacon of light that lights the way for others who need help in finding their way. It is our sacred right and privilege to see the face of God in everyone, to touch that place within all people where God exists, to light the way for others when they cannot find it for themselves, to find the peace, not only for ourselves, but for all of mankind and for our planet, to shine that light on a world that works for everyone. Because truly, that world is already here. just waiting to be revealed to those who cannot see. We just need to lead the way, to set an example, to be all that we can be. If it is to be, it is up to me. Be the light, be the beacon, be the one that brings us all home, not only to our world, but to that peace that exists at the very core of each of us, the truth of who we are. Because that is who we are. We are one, we are all connected. Deep within each and every one of us is that calm, that peace, that place where we live and exist with the one truth. Hold on 1 minute, my dog is being crazy. My dog could not find peace by getting through the cat door into my room. It's a little too small for him. Now he'll pace around, but he's better. In any event, we have to find a world that not only works for us, but works for the dog trying to get through the cat door. I'll leave you with a quote from Ernest. If we want peace on earth, let us pray for peace in our own hearts. Let us affirm peace in our own minds. Let us live as though peace were the mandate of God, because it is. Let us, out of the stillness of our own soul, reach back to that ineffable presence, which is peace, and proclaim it, even in the midst of confusion. Peace, which is the power at the heart of God. Peace is already here. It is at the core of our very being. It is who we are. Now go out there and share that truth, that peace, that calm with the world, because that is how we change the world. One person at a time, one step at a time, and it all starts with you. Namaste.